Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. A merchant navy officer identified as Saurabh Rajput was stabbed to death by his wife and her lover. The accused Muskan Rastogi and her lover Sahil Shukla alias Mohit have both been arrested for chopping the victim's body into 15 pieces and stuffing it into a drum filled with cement. Investigators believe Muskan and Sahil murdered the victim on the 4th of March before leaving for a trip to the hills. Meanwhile, Muskan misled the victim's family by pretending he was alive. His decomposed remains have been discovered nearly 15 days after his murder and sent for post-mortem. Meanwhile, the two accused have been booked for murder and destruction of evidence. Police revealed that Muskan and Saurabh got married in 2016 despite their family's disapproval, leading them to live in a rented apartment. The couple had a 6-year-old daughter. Locals reported that Muskan had possession of the victim's phone and was messaging his family to avoid suspicion while ignoring their repeated requests for speaking to him. The accused had allegedly been plotting the heinous crime since November 2024 and even procured knives and sedatives in preparation for this. Parents of the accused, Muskan Rastogi, have demanded the death penalty for Muskan and Sahil. Let's talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is A.K. Jain, former DGP, UP, Mr. Ramakant Gaur, a lawyer of the Supreme Court, also with us on the show. Deepika Bhardwaj, senior journalist and men's rights activist, is joining us on the program as well. Last but not the least, Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, joins us on the show as well. Deepika, I'll begin with you. Well, what do you think happened over here? You know, this is a heinous crime. This poor man's body was chopped up into 15 pieces. He seemed to be someone decent who had put up with this kind of affair in the past as well and yet decided to forgive his wife and move on. But here she is, plotting his murder, eventually kills him, stuffs him into a box or a drum and puts cement on it, thinking that she might get away. But I think it was the daughter, if I'm not wrong, who gave it away when she said that Papa drum mein hai.
Vineet, this is a very, very shocking case, and I am for the first time very thankful to media that people are discussing this case as much discussion it deserves. Vineet, I would like to share with you that after Saurabh's case, there have been 6 more murders exactly similar in just last 4 days of husbands being murdered by their wives and their lovers. This is happening every single day, unfortunately. And I think the predominant reason behind most of these crimes is adultery, infidelity. This is heights when the person takes to, kill the other person. But unfortunately, we deal with cases day in, day out where the husbands are suffering, whose wives are in extramarital affairs, in adultery, and they, along with their lovers, come to the court, threaten the husband, give him to the extent of death threats. In fact, just a week back in Noida, a very young techie was murdered by his wife's family. He had been pleading to the police that his wife and her family has given him death threats. Please give him some protection. But he was murdered in cold blood early in the morning, and his wife is still out. The police saying we don't find that she was involved. Well, she used to go away whenever the contract killer tried to attack him for the last 2 months. So is it possible that she was not involved? So these cases are happening day in, day out, Vineet. Extreme amount of cruelty is happening to husbands also within marriages, but unfortunately our laws do not recognize that a man can also be a victim of domestic violence.
Gautam, very, very good points, Deepika. I completely concur with you. Gautam, do you see a pattern here of men's rights, or rather the violations against men and their sensitivities, going to a hilt in the last few months? There has been a streak of violence. There's been a streak of suicides. Men complaining that the system somehow is rigged against them.
Oh, what I can't understand is why they don't get divorced. This having to kill your partner in order to carry on with an affair or run off or even abandon the family altogether. This is not really just a matter of marital harassment of the husband. It is plain mentally disturbed people. Nobody in his right mind needs to do this just to carry out an affair. You want to have an affair or you want to abandon your husband, just do it. I mean, where is the need to kill him, chop him up, and do this kind of horrible stuff? Not very few people can do this. There's a certain mentality which is murderous that can manage something like this. It makes really more of a pointer towards mental health than it does towards the state of marriages and difficulties between families. Now, the last panelist implied that sometimes it's the entire family of one of the partners is involved in trying to eliminate a husband. And now that is, of course, another kind of thing. Maybe they're after property, maybe things of that order. Otherwise, I can't see why a wife's family would get all involved in trying to kill a husband. Vineet.
You're absolutely right. Mr. Jain, these cases and the spurt in suicides by men, what needs to be done? The law is already formed. There are obviously ways and means around which you can put all the blame onto men if there is domestic violence. We have seen some important cases happen, especially the one with the Bangalore techie in the last few months. Now this murder. These are not good precedents. This is also something which has to do with the deep-seated culture of being overprotective towards a certain or one particular gender.
Very famous cases, especially this Bangalore case. Now people naturally read newspapers, they go through all these reports, and several such husbands, they have either committed suicide or they have been murdered by wife and her lover. So all these cases, they have come to light, and several cases are there, as it has been reported by a panelist. Even I keep on reading. This Meerut case is very ghastly, and it was not a loving husband. What a loving husband he was. He left his family because of this lady, because of the affair with this lady, and they were married since 2016. They were having a good married life. They had a 6-year-old daughter, but even then she resorted to this kind of thing and manipulated that boy Sahil Shukla to get involved, and the way he has been murdered. I'm very happy that girl's family, her sister, her parents, they have come out against this murder, and they want death penalty for their daughter. This is the right way to deal with it, and instead of protecting, instead of shielding the family member, such family members should be exposed, and they shouldn't come out of jail for the next 20-25 years.
All right, Mr. Gaur, there are rights that men enjoy, there are rights that women enjoy, but we have seen too many cases where empty allegations have ruined the lives of men but in this case this is obviously murder, but it is already adding up to the weight of the trauma that men have endured in the last few weeks or even the last few years, only in concentration to the terms of cases that we have talked about and taken up in the media on NewsX as well. Is this another addition to that same spate of justice not being done?
Viniji, I read it in a different perspective. I cannot agree than what my learned panelists have said. But we need to understand one thing. What do we read? As Mr. Jain said, we read newspaper, we saw debates, we participate in the debates, but what do? Where from these cases are reported? 9 metros. The situation is every 20 minutes a girl is raped. This is the situation of crime against women. So if we are talking about gender inequalities as far as crime against women or crime against men are concerned, crime is, or the law is unbiased as far as the legal professions are concerned. There are specific laws meant for the protection of women, like 498 and other laws, no doubt about that. They are being misused. Yes, they are being misused. There are empty allegations which are being leveled, extortion are being committed. Yes, they are happening. But can we generalize this? As a matter of fact, if you go 100 kilometers away from Delhi and go to some rustic area, the females are treated so badly at their homes. See, we need to look at the larger perspective. India does not live in the metro cities.
True.
We need to see, these laws were constructed. They were evolved only when such situations were prevailing. And that's the reason, Vinitji, why the courts in India have made it mandatory for creating, the conciliation process. The arrest in these cases is not made compulsory. Police is quite cautious about taking actions against the male. This is all codified law today. Now, with the evolution of BNSS, the law is a little lighter or milder as far as the crime against women are alleged, and dowry related crimes are reported. But if we generalize this and we look at only men are being victimized, then this is not a right kind of thing. There are instances where men are being implicated, persecuted, meet with such kind of ghastly result. This is the way this Meerut boy was murdered, a Bangalore techie was murdered. But this is not a generic picture in the country. The picture in the country is little worse than what we see, what we read, because reporting does not happen in ground, in villages or in the remote areas. Please go and look at the situation. Female are working,
but
the male.
I agree with you, sir. But that does not mean that men are not falsely implicated. That does not mean that there have been untrue cases and allegations, botched up allegations against men for the sake of dowry, for the sake of alimony, which has put stress on them to take extreme steps. That's what we are discussing today.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
All right, let me get a response to what you have said from Deepika as well. Deepika, sir is absolutely right that there seems to be a concentration on what is happening in the metropolis predominantly at this point in time. The situation in villages is perhaps the opposite when it comes to the condition of women and how they are being treated by men. Why can't we look at both? Why can't we in fact weigh out these problems and reform the law, reform the cultural depths because of which these crimes happen?
Vineet, first of all, let me just say that nobody is saying that, only men are victims or women are not victims. Let me just say that. 99% of the times the discussion usually happens on crime against women. It's
Correct.
1% probably that we are compelled to discuss when something so brutal happens against men, and we cannot just close our eyes. Until now, for the last so many years, I think there was hardly any discussion in media because we had shut our eyes to what's happening with men. Atul Subhash's case brought this discussion to mainstream, and I see that a lot of people are discomforted. I really do not see a point behind it, because nobody is saying that women are not victimized. Women are victimized. They are subjected to brutal kind of crimes. But does that mean that we should not have protection for men? Let's look at this case only. What if Saurabh would have, protested to this affair and wanted to file, a case for divorce, which is his only measure, by the way, because adultery is no longer an offense. He could have just filed for divorce. Vineet, right now I have at least 50 cases with me of men having their wives having extramarital affair, and proper evidences with them in terms of chats, in terms of audio, in terms of, sometimes even to the fact that they have caught their wife's lover in their own house. And you know what's happening with them right now? They have a dowry case, they have a DV case, they have 125 case, they have 4 litigations that they have to attend to. Then the wife files an appeal, then he has to go for an appeal. So we are not saying that women are not suffering, but we are saying that men are also victims of domestic violence within their marriages. Men are also victims of abuse within their marriages. And when men complain about these things by the just measure of divorce, they are then slapped with false cases. So what are the recourses available? There is no doubt that there are a lot of women who suffer in, smaller areas also. There's extreme kind of subjugation of women. There is no denial of that. But are men having a very good life over there? No. We get cases even from smaller places where men are getting beaten up in their own homes. उनको उनकी बीवियां पीटती हैं, वो कुछ नहीं कर पाते हैं. पुलिस के पास जाते हैं तो पुलिस बोलती है, भाई आप चले जाओ अपने घर वापस, क्योंकि अगर आपकी पत्नी आके एफआईआर दर्ज कराएगी तो हमारे को उसकी एफआईआर दर्ज करनी पड़ेगी. This is the difference that I'm talking about. Nobody is saying that women should not be protected. Women should have stringent laws. Make the laws even more stringent. But can we please do something for men who are suffering as well? Can we recognize all the Western countries that we have brought the laws from, and we want to be progressive and bring, all kind of provisions that are there in West for women in India as well. But let us understand that the West also has gender neutral laws. Spousal murder in Australia, 1 per week, is considered to be a huge thing. In 2023, my organization, Ekam Nyay Foundation, diligently recorded all the cases of husband murder and suicides, only reported in media, because there's no data gathering. Like sir said, there is a woman raped 20 minutes, in India. There is no data gathering that I could give you statistics for, because it is not gathered for men, right? So in Australia, 1 week, one spousal murder is considered a big thing. They have gender neutral provisions. In India, in our report, we documented 1 murder of husband every single day by the wife and the lover. Now this is extreme. Murder is extreme. But don't you think that a lot of things that would have happened before the murder happened? But that is not recognized. If the man would go and say, मेरी बीवी का affair है, वो मुझे धमकी दे रही है, police will shut their eyes. They will not really do anything. And we see these cases day in, day out. That is my only concern.
That's a good
point.
point.
The law has to be there for everyone.
Absolutely. So it's the mindset that we have to fight against. Gautam, that's the bottom line of this entire argument, that the mindset is still pegged against men. There's assumption without any kind of a vindication that, okay, he's done it.
Well, I think, quite apart from the legal aspects, and unfortunately, I have very little faith in our legal system. As described by the previous panelists, the police don't want to record anything. The other side files 3 other cases or 3 other complaints. To just get beyond an FIR is itself a monumental task, and then it goes on for years and years. I think the right thing, commonsensically, if I was trapped in such a situation, is I would live separately. I will not live with a woman like this. What I suspect is the likely cause of, all these murders and so on, is when one or the other clings to the spouse and refuses to let her go. And, so then the other person feels trapped, and between them and their lovers and so on, the situation escalates into something heinous like this. But the first things first, if this is the state of your marriage, then get out of it immediately. What is the point? The legal issues are beside, I know firsthand of many people who don't get on. They live separately for 2 or 3 years with whoever they happen to be, comfortable with now. Both men and women are with different partners, and then eventually they get around to the divorce. There is really no need to involve third parties when you are in the cauldron and the water is boiling. You've got to get out of it first.
But what does it take, Mr. Jain, to get out of this water? Like Gautam very articulately put it, that if you are in a situation like this, it's easy to get out of it. Why resort to murder?
Yeah.
It depends on the psychology of a person. Every person has a different psychology. Some people, they are very criminal minded, and once you get married later on, you realize that criminality is there in the family, criminality is there in the spouse. So you can't do anything about it. You can't run away from it. You have to file case as has been suggested. I agree with it. Instead of killing a person and then landing up in jail for 20 years, 25 years, or facing death penalty, it is always better to get divorced, to file papers. I have seen several such cases after retirement, when my friend's son or somebody got married to a lady, and lady was after the money of the family, and she used to get drunk and beat parents, in-laws also, and all sorts of atrocities were going on. I suggested that file for judicial separation, because marriage was not even 1 year old. So they have filed for judicial separation, they have obtained orders. So that's the only way to deal with it, that you get rid of such a person, because if such a person is staying in your household, then she or he will make the life miserable for the entire family. And you don't feel happy when you see your old parents getting involved in all these activities. So I generally support the version of all the panelists, and but it is for the police, especially in such cases as this murder of Saurabh Rajput. Very deterrent action is required against this couple, against the wife and the lover Sahil Shukla. Watertight case should be prepared against them, and I'll be very happy if they are hanged, because a message should be there in the society that such instances, such incidents will not be tolerated.
Mr. Gaur, we have run out of time, but some concluding thoughts from you.
A very pertinent point is taken by Mr. Jain and Ms. Deepika and Mr. Gautam as well. See, first thing first, police does not take action, and this is not in the case of husband and wife. Let me inform the viewer of your channel that a sitting Supreme Court judge had to wait to get his FIR registered, and then came a constitutional bench judgment of Lalita Kumari. Even after constitutional bench judgment, you go to any police station, it is really very difficult to get the FIR registered, irrespective of the fact that how many sources do you have. Easily the FIRs are not registered. First, actions are not taken. Courts are flooded with the cases. Courts are not able to perform because there is paucity of judges. So the justice is not being done. This is all right, but we have to come up, and the government of the day has to come up with some solution for this, and do the needful, so that whatever gender it is, they get the justice.
All right. Appreciate everybody who joined us. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but this is an important agenda. It's an important conversation that we will continue to have time and again. We take a short break. Be right back.